Celebrial family, buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you feels less like gossip and more like a dark secret finally slipping through the cracks.
Yeah, I just seen the Breakfast Club. Jimmy popping all that bullshit. I be seeing Jimmy talking about, we Gucci boo boo. He in the Gucci store. Talking about, we Gucci boo boo. The Black King niggas was going fuck you up. Jimmy, they was like, Marita Monero.
Something is happening behind the scenes in hip-hop. And once you hear it, you won't look at this situation the same way again. 50 Cent just locked his crosshairs on Jim Jones. And man, it's getting ugly.
He wanted that. He was watching them be that, like Mace be that and Cam be that, and looked at, and it was finally, he had one.
Mm-hmm.
And I just looked, and I knew, I just took the shot murder to see, because I wasn't sure he was going to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, we like Jimmy better than you anyway, Cam. You got to watch to see how he responds. And then when you see, he like, oh, he really like that. Hey, give me this. Get me Jimmy. Yeah, tell him we want him. We want you at the show, Jimmy. Yo, but that was one of those things I just threw it out and see what. And then when he bit to it, because it was like he was having a moment that not sure that was going to ever happen again at that point. And then he's going, for them, they had records that where, look, I always said it's just certain artists, I go, damn, when is he going to have his moment? Like, Fab, I said.
Jim sparked the chaos by dissing Nas on Fat Joe and Jadakiss's podcast, claiming he's a better rapper than Nas and has done more for the culture than Nas ever could.
Yeah.
Were you smoking when you said you better than Nas?
I might have been a little bit. Well, as far as let's get this right. I'm way more influential than Nas, and I don't care what nobody say. I know I made a little boo-boo when you talk about the sales and all this type of shit. I don't feel like getting into that rhetoric about where I started and where he started.
Well, you said that bullshit.
But listen, Nas was nice when I was in.
Wild, especially coming from someone who used to worship Nas's pen. So what made him flip the script like that? And could Jay-Z be quietly pulling the strings behind the curtain? Because according to 50, this isn't just random shade. He says Jim Jones is acting like a Hav puppet. And honestly, the timeline looks suspicious.
But I hear the comparisons and the nigga trying to act funny when it comes. No, I've been spanking a lot of this. I'm talking about the industry. I've been putting on. So let's not get into that where we get into numbers and I got to show you the statistics of what I've done. You heard to what other people was done. You heard them. You want to go to the Billboard entries, pull up Nas' Billboard entries, then pull up my Billboard entries.
Listen, we can't compare the two. What I'm trying to tell you is
I want to go there. I want to go down the line now, because now we going down the line. He's a rapper and I'm a rapper.
Listen,
let's go statistically.
It feels great.
No, but I want to go statistically, because when people be like,
I feel the same way. We all feel the same way.
And forget about the numbers. My numbers back up.
Let me step up to the forefront.
For years, Jim dragged Jay-Z in interviews, clowning him every chance he got. Then suddenly he switched sides and started treating Hav like a big brother? Nah, that turnaround looks sketchy. And 50 is calling it out. Let's rewind to where the chaos really started. Jim sat down with Fat Joe and Jadakiss to talk about recent hits.
So Nas was my idol when I was young. Like you did, came to dressing, the wordplay, the music, everything. I was a superior Nas fan, period. I'd never take that away from him. But then as I got in the game, you got to realize that your rivals would be idols, and not to take anything away from that. I developed my own style and my own lane that these kids start to gravitate towards the same way I gravitated towards Nas when I was younger and things like that. It's a whole different generation. We're talking about 94, 93. I was in 11th grade. Nigga, it's 2025. There's a big gap there, you know what I mean? And I want people to understand that. So when Shorty's telling people that, yeah, he's 20-some years old, that goes to show the part of the era that he's in, that I came into light and started going crazy, that these kids love me. They don't really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
Not all of them. Some of them know. But
you know what I mean?
A lot of them know.
Joe brought up a wild comparison floating around online. Younger fans saying Jim has done more for hip-hop than Nas. This was Jim's moment to keep it respectful, maybe show some love. But instead, he laughed and said, These new kids don't even know Nas. Then he doubled down, saying his influence is bigger. Like, bro, what are we doing?
Like this here, Jim. Hey, bro, you been at this thing, but lyrically, I'm gonna keep it a stack with you.
Yeah,
Y'all
but look
ain't
how you
effing with
dress.
Nas.
Look how you dress. You don't even be in the same places I be in. And the
But
things that we listen to.
I can be in the church house. You can't F with Nas lyrics. I don't know who told you that. Now look, I know you on that good stuff, but you're not seeing Nas.
Bro,
you're not seeing Nas, bro. Let's be real.
You got a bunch of 40 and 50-year-olds in their panties because I said I'm better than Nas.
It don't matter.
Look at you. Look at you.
Nobody from Dipset gonna take you over.
But let's get one thing straight. Nobody's denying Dipset helped shape an era. They had the streets in a chokehold, from the fashion to the slang to the whole swagger of the 2000s. But even with all that history, Jim didn't mention Dipset once while bragging about his legacy. Not Cameron, not Jewels, not the movement. He made it sound like he carried Harlem by himself, solo.
Mats, no nobody else. Me, Jim Jones. Check my track record. Then check everybody else's track record. Then go to the billboards and check all my entries. Then check all them entries and like if you want to go to the billboard entries, pull up Nas billboard entries. Then pull up my billboard entries.
Can we address one thing though?
Go ahead.
Jim Jones has 9 entries in the Billboard 200 with 3 top 10 albums and no number ones, while Nas has 27 entries, 16 top 10 albums, and 6 that have reached number 1 on the Billboard 200.
Right now, 2025, I'm in the game still rapping at a high capacity. If Nas wants to smoke, come in the booth. I will rap
You don't want
circles
no
around.
smoke.
Jim Jones is rapping at a high capacity right now in 2025. I'm on record as saying I think some of the best music that's been coming out of New York in recent years has been from Jim Jones. I haven't seen Nas in that mode. Nas still makes great music at a high level. I just haven't seen Nas in that, let's get active, getting at each other mode.
And the moment he said that, Jadakiss's face dropped so hard it could have cracked the mic. He didn't even need to say a word. That look said, "Stop the cap immediately." Everybody knows Nas is a certified hip-hop architect, one of the greats.
Recently,
Meanwhile, Jim didn't start getting...
saw a clip on Instagram where a young kid was comparing you to Nas and saying that you got
Yeah, that's my young boy.
big hits.
He's wild.
Yo, he looked to you. He learned how to wear the BB Simon belt from you. He got his swag. Like, how crazy is that? Because in my era, you know what I'm saying? Nas is like a god.
In my era too. I mean,
So to
well,
be compared-
Yeah, let me
That young kid.
He
He was young and we loved that he loved Jim Jones. I want you to break it down.
Let's break this down. I admired Nas, but remember Nas' first record, The Barbecue, came out when I was in 11th grade.
real mainstream respect until Ballin hit and went crazy. And now the same guy who was excited just to meet Nas last year is suddenly claiming he's the superior artist? That's not confidence. That's wild ego. Jada kept his cool, but you could see it in his eyes.
Coming up and things like that.
I've heard you say that.
Since the barbecue and things like that, like he really put the whole dope boy rap, crack hustler, get fresh rap into perspective before anybody else. Before I heard Jay do it, before I heard anybody else, like he changed the cadence of rap into a whole different steam. Like he's the one that broke the camel's back when it came to artists like, to me, when it came to artists like Big Daddy Kane and all these artists that came right before him. Like after Nas came with that, they started to fade out, and then Jay, Fat Joe, like all of these rappers that are spitting about the life that we was really starting to live right now and how it was changing. Like this is, you know what I mean? So that's how I felt about that whole little situation.
Bro, you tweaking. And you better believe every major rapper in the game saw that clip and raised an eyebrow. But Jim didn't slow down. He stomped the gas. He claimed he could out-rap Nas. Better bars, sharper flow, more impact, more relevance. The whole package. Then he crossed into pure chaos territory and said, "I'm more relevant now than Nas has ever been." Bruh. Come on. To defend himself, Jim started flexing numbers. Billboard placements, Spotify streams, viral stats, album rankings. Trying to convince the culture that data puts him ahead of Nas. But the internet wasn't buying a single syllable. Nas fans came in like a digital army. They dropped screenshots, sales stats, Grammys, classic album lists, global streams, everything. They dragged Jim from Harlem to Queensbridge and back for disrespecting a man who's been crafting timeless projects since before Jim even had a demo tape.
What's up with that Jim Jones, man? Hip-hop, of course, you know, is a competitive sport. But on the other end of it, it's like certain people shouldn't be able to say your names until they done something in the genre of music. I've done too much in this music to even have to answer that question. Like, Jim Jones, who is Jim Jones? Like, he's not on anyone's top 10 list. He's like no one's top 10 list, maybe not even his family. Oh my God. I was saying last night, it's like the 8th guy on the bench just screaming at Jordan, like, you a bum. Like, you want to be like the 9th guy on the bench. I'm not even worried about you.
And let's not pretend this tension came out of nowhere. This bitterness goes all the way back to the early 2000s. Back when Nas took shots at Dipset and even clowned Cameron's Come Home With Me project. Cam responded over the Hate Me Now beat, and boom, the whole thing exploded. Harlem versus Queens, Diplomats versus Nasir Jones, Pride versus Legacy. It became a full-blown war. Disses, radio freestyles, interviews, subliminals, you name it. And now, decades later, Jim is still throwing gasoline on a fire most people forgot even existed. But here's where the whole story takes a wild twist. Because while that Dipset versus Nas feud was catching flames, Jim Jones and Jay-Z had their own war brewing in the background. People forget this part, but Jay used to clown Jim publicly, and things got ugly fast.
Jimmy was not a rapper then.
Right.
He was your man, like on the side, like on the side, just he was not a rapper at all.
Right.
So when Ballin' took place, and I'm looking and I'm going, oh, he having a moment. That's the Lloyd Banks. It's Lloyd Banks thing.
There was real tension, real bitterness, and real pressure behind the scenes. The breaking point came when Jay refused to make Cameron the vice president of Rockefeller. That one decision didn't just sting, it blew the bridge up completely.
Jones went on Fat Joe and Jadakiss's, oh look, a topic in a topic. Yeah. He went on Fat Joe and Jadakiss's podcast and had a lot to say about some dude on the internet that said Jim Jones is better than Nas and has more Billboard hits than Nas.
It was a young kid. I believe he was like 23 or something, 22, 23. And he was saying that for his generation, his era, they don't look at Nas. And a lot of people took offense to that. I personally did not take offense just because of the kid's age, of the generation.
It's like a sports conversation. Like the numbers are the numbers. But in New York City, with rappers, we don't necessarily go by that.
Yes, Travis Scott is the bigger act, more hits, more numbers, more. But to the rappers, don't nobody give a about what Travis Scott is talking.
Suddenly, Harlem and The Rock weren't brothers anymore. They were rivals. Jim took Cam's side heavy, like a soldier ready for battle. And that loyalty kicked off a long, messy rivalry with Jay-Z himself. Shots were fired in interviews. Subliminals flew through mixtapes. And the streets ate it up. But now, fast forward to the present day, Jim is praising Jay-Z and dissing Nas. After years of trash-talking both of them, nah, that switch-up ain't random at all. Something strategic is moving behind the curtain. And the whole hip-hop world is side-eyeing every word Jim says. Because Jim and Cam always felt like they got played by The Rock. They swore Rockefeller used Harlem for the swagger, the fashion, the energy, but never gave Harlem the respect or power it deserved. They believed they were brought in to make Jay-Z look cooler. And once the mission was done, they were tossed aside like props. And that's why the old heads remember this clearly. It was Dame Dash, not Jay-Z, who brought Dipset into the rock circle. So when Jay took over the throne, Jim and Cam felt like he pushed them out on purpose, like he wanted to erase Harlem's shine, so Brooklyn stayed king. And trust, Jim did not stay quiet about any of that. He went at Jay-Z directly, calling him soft, saying he wasn't outside like that, claiming he was disconnected from real street energy, and accusing him of shutting Harlem out of an empire they helped elevate. And this wasn't rap talk for cameras. Jim took it personally. He took it to the streets, and anyone watching could feel the heat between them. On December 22nd, 2008, Jim Jones got into a full-on brawl inside a Louis Vuitton store in Manhattan. And this wasn't some random scuffle with a stranger. The man he fought was a close friend and business partner of Jay-Z, which made the whole thing feel like a message, not a coincidence. This was personal, deeply personal. Jim ended up pleading guilty to misdemeanor assault almost a year later, and that moment became solid proof that his beef with Hov ran way deeper than music. This wasn't rap politics. This was real-world tension spilling out in public. But here's where the story flips. After all that drama, after years of clowning Jay-Z, after taking shots in interviews, mixtapes, and even in the streets, Jim folded. He circled right back, looking for a deal from the same man he'd been attacking for years. And honestly, that move shocked everybody. It made Jim look like he went from trying to tear Jay down to hoping Jay would help revive his career. That switch up is exactly why a lot of people say Jim can't be trusted. When pressure hits, he jumps sides like it's nothing. Loyalty seems optional to him, and everybody sees it. And that is exactly why 50 Cent never respected him. Back in 2007, when the G-Unit versus Dipset beef was boiling, Jim stunned the whole game by popping up at a G-Unit event. People thought maybe 50 was about to sign him, but nah, 50 wasn't offering anything. He was playing chess while Jim was still playing checkers. He brought Jim out on purpose, not to work with him, but to expose him. 50 wanted to show the entire industry, especially Cameron, that Jim would do anything just to get a little spotlight. It was a setup, a public lesson, and 50 pulled it off perfectly. No contract, no opportunity. Just a cold moment that made the whole business see Jim as someone without a solid code. From that day on, 50 saw Jim as weak, a man who switches teams and bends whenever it benefits him. Now fast forward, because this is where the plot hits a whole new level. 50 Cent and Jay-Z have been in a quiet, icy cold war for years. No yelling, no diss tracks, just silent tension that everyone in the industry knows is there. So the second Jim Jones ran back to Jay-Z's camp looking for a lifeline, that was it. That move officially made Jim 50's enemy, no debate. The moment that Roc Nation deal got stamped, you could feel the shift in the air. Heavy, strange, calculated. And not long after that, Jim magically started throwing slick shots at Nas. Coincidence? 50 Cent doesn't buy that for a second. See, 50 is convinced Jay-Z is moving pieces behind the scenes, using Jim like a pawn in a much bigger game. Jay's been itching to stir the pot with Nas again. But instead of jumping into the ring himself, he's letting Jim do the swinging. That's classic Jay-Z. Move silent. Let someone else take the heat. Keep your own hands clean while the smoke forms around you. But 50? Oh, he wasn't fooled for a millisecond. The moment he caught wind of Jim cozying up to Jay-Z, he didn't even blink. He went straight to Instagram, calling him out the way only 50 can. Loud, petty, strategic, and surgical. He dropped clips, memes, quotes, the whole comedy show, clowning Jim for switching sides and selling himself for relevance. He called Jim the industry's favorite puppet and made it crystal clear who he thinks is pulling the strings. Jay-Z, pulling the levers, letting Jim take the backlash, avoiding getting dirty himself. And 50 wasn't just trolling. This was real irritation. He reminded everybody of Jay's long history of using other artists to handle his battles while he stays in the shadows playing cool. According to 50, this Nas situation is just the latest episode. In his eyes, Jim's not dissing Nas out of pride. He's doing Jay's bidding while pretending he's moving on his own. Brutal. Then the internet jumped in, and the whole thing turned chaotic fast. Fans dug up old interviews where Jim praised Nas, called him one of the greatest of all time, and even said Nas inspired his hustle. Those clips spread everywhere like wildfire. Suddenly, the entire internet started asking the same question. So which Jim Jones are we getting today? The Nas fan or the Nas hater? The whole situation made Jim's act look shaky, and the internet wasted zero time turning him into a meme factory. Clip after clip, joke after joke, people were clowning him nonstop. And while all this chaos was unfolding, Nas didn't even blink. That's what made it hurt even more. Nas stayed cool, unbothered, untouched. He kept doing what he always does, dropping timeless bars, stacking Grammys, minding his business, while Jim was out here starting clout battles that nobody asked for. And 50? Oh, he was loving every single second, throwing jabs every chance he got. Sometimes subtle, sometimes direct, always surgical. He even said Jim is the type of dude who'd diss a legend just to get his boss's attention. Cold, straight cold. But here's where things take a darker turn. Rumors started floating around that people inside Roc Nation were actually the ones pushing Jim to stir up controversy with Nas, as a calculated PR move. Think about it. Controversy boosts streams. Drama boosts views. Beef boosts attention. And Jay-Z knows how to control a narrative better than almost anyone. So if 50's theory is right, Jim isn't moving on his own. He's a piece on Jay's chessboard, and not even a valuable one. But 50 being 50, he didn't stop at talking. He started dropping old behind-the-scenes stories, moments where Jim allegedly begged for features, begged for meetings, tried to get in certain rooms, and got curved every single time. He's peeling away that Harlem tough guy image Jim likes to sell, exposing him as someone desperate for acceptance in circles that never really welcomed him. And honestly, this whole thing feels bigger than rap now. It's a fight about pride, credibility, relevance, and who actually holds real power in hip-hop. Jim's trying to prove he belongs in the same conversation as legends. But every move he makes gives 50 more ammo to tear him down. 50 said something years ago that still hits like a punch. A real boss keeps their hands clean even when they do dirt. That one line exposes the whole game. Jay-Z built his whole brand on being calm, polished, and untouchable. But behind that slick suit and quiet grin, that man calculates every move like a chess grandmaster, watching the board, not the noise. From borrowing Biggie's blueprint to freezing out his own Rockefeller brothers, Jay learned early that real power doesn't come from shouting. It comes from silence and control. He's not just playing the game, he owns the board. Just look at the pattern. He iced out Dame Dash. He made sure Cameron couldn't shine too bright. And now he's got Jim Jones out here stirring up old beef with Nas while he stands in the background. Cool, calm, polished. Like he had nothing to do with it. That's classic Jay. Let everybody else get messy while he walks away spotless. Cutthroat, but effective. And that right there is why 50 Cent doesn't rock with either of them. Loyalty means everything to him, and Jay or Jim. They don't live by that code. That's why 50 rides so hard for M. M's been solid since day one. Never switched sides, never folded, never chased attention. When that rumor spread about Jay trying to block 50 from performing at the Super Bowl, it was M who said, "If 50's not performing, I'm not performing either." That's loyalty you can't buy. Fame fades, streams dry up, trends disappear, but respect? That's the real currency. Jim might be making noise right now, but Nas built the foundation he's standing on. You can't troll your way into greatness. You earn that through legacy, time, and consistency. So now I want to know, whose side are you riding with in this saga? Team 50? Team Nas? Or do you think Jim is really standing on business this time? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with your people, because this story, far from over.